We're calling the meeting to order, please. Oh, I forgot. There you go. Okay.
Okay, we're ready.
You can make copies or you can make copies.
Yeah, I will.
I'll make copies for you now. All right, Mr. Quigley's got some copies to make for Mr. Rayno. Is that his?
Will everyone stand, please? Councilman Reyno will lead us in the prayer.
Yes, sir.
Let us bow our heads and remember that we are in the presence of the Lord. Lord, we thank you for this day and for all our many blessings. We pray for your comfort and healing for all those in our community who are ill and suffering. We ask, Lord, that you watch over and keep safe all of our military personnel around the world. Protect them, Father, as they serve to keep our country safe from terrorists and all those who wish to do us harm. We pray, Lord, for all the deceased members of our family and community, and especially for those who lost their loved ones in the terrorist attack on our country on 9/11. Please comfort the families of those who have lost their loved ones and grant them your peace. Father, look upon our assembly of elected officials here today. Fill us with the spirit of wisdom. May we always act in accordance with your will, and may our decisions always be for the peace and well-being of the citizens of our community. Jesus promised in Matthew 21:22, whatever you ask for in prayer with faith, you will receive. In faith we pray, amen.
Amen.
Amen. Councilman Klein, please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum this evening. Councilmember DeFranchise will serve as the acting mayor tonight. In accordance with Council Resolution Number B14550, please be advised that all cellular telephones, pagers, beepers, and other devices of this nature must be deactivated throughout the council meeting. Mr. Chairman, I received a request this evening to change the order of business to take item 17A at the beginning of the meeting, please. Motion by Councilmember Reyno, second by Councilmember Conley, to change the order of business this evening for item 17A. All members, please vote. Mr. Chairman, motion passes 6-0. Item 17A, at the request of Councilmember Reyno, a presentation of a fundraiser check to Chief Michael Glazier of the Kenner Police Department from Gary Rucker and Kelly Fushi of the Rivertown Theater Group, proceeds which were derived from a benefit presentation of Shrek the Musical on September 11, 2014.
Councilman Reyno, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. If you could state your name and address for the record, just right there on the mic.
Kelly Fushi, 109 Destin Lane, River Ridge.
Gary Rucker, 4442 Augusta, Metairie.
I just want to say thank you so much for what you did for the police department in hosting that night with all of the proceeds going to the police department. I want to congratulate y'all. The Big Easy Awards, five awards last year. It's fantastic what y'all bring to Kenner. You are truly a jewel in Kenner. Once people get there, I know one of the council members had went for the first time, and he said, wow, I didn't even know this was here. It's really great. So we want to thank y'all. I also want to thank, in addition, we had coffee and desserts there. Joey LaBella, Troy Gendusa, and Winn-Dixie for supplying those desserts. We also had some door prizes that night. Sweet Simplicity, Stanford's True Value Hardware, Ted's Barbecue, Lake Town Car Wash, Two Amigos, Gendusa's Italian Market for the door prizes. I know all my council members, the ones that went there and the ones that couldn't make it because of conflicts, all bought tickets, and I know a lot of people came and saw a great show and were really impressed. I also need to thank one other person who put everything together for me, and that's Darylyn Dozat, my council assistant, who went out on her lunch hour and collected these certificates, also helped in getting the word out. So thank you all so much for everything.
Thank you
And-
very much. It's always our pleasure to just be able to do what we love in Kenner. We're just so thankful and proud to get to be out there. We would love to be able to do this again. We want to thank you personally for helping us organize it. And we're proud to present the check. We raised just a little over $1,700 that night for the police, so we'd love to present that check right now.
And please don't sit down. There's a couple of council members who would like to say a few words before you guys sit down. Chief, you can start it off first. Thank you.
Well, I'll be brief. On behalf of myself and the men and women of the police department, we thank you for opening your doors for this fundraiser. And as we spoke again, it may happen again in the future, and look forward to working with you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Klein, you have the floor.
Group as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman at Large Conley, you have the floor, please.
I too thoroughly enjoyed it. I think it blew me away. And I was the councilman that had not been to a play there before, but I tell you what, I'm not going to miss another one. And we just need to get the word out that it was by far, I've seen plays on Broadway, I've seen plays on a lot of venues, and it's special that we have that in Kenner. I also want to thank the Reynos for organizing it and putting it together on behalf of the police department, and it was such a good cause, and I hope that we do have it again, and I think as it moves along, it'll get more and more recognition. But it was a treat, and I know people that have tried to get tickets to Shrek the Musical.
Good luck.
They couldn't get them. So now I feel really special because I had a special viewing. But thank you for everything you do. Thank you to the Reynos and to the council members that supported this endeavor.
Yes, and also I'd like to thank Councilman Moreno and his wife for this event. It is something that shows that a lot of stuff is going around through the country as it relates to the police officers and the support and the engagement that they have. This is a testament to the city of Kenner that the community on a whole, on an average, really respect the work that the policemen do. It's a tough job that they do, but what the people showed by their contributions that we have a lot of respect and we understand how tough it is for them, the job that they do. As far as you guys, you have been doing a fantastic job. From everyone that we hear from, I live in that neighborhood, so I see the cars that are parked there in the church parking lot, in front of your building, around the corner. So if it's any testament for the future, what you've done so far, it's going to be a bright future for the city of Kenner and what you guys do.
Thank you.
So thank you very much. And
Mr.
Mayor DeFrances would like to say a few words.
Very, very quickly, I just wanted to say that I too attended it, the production, and it was a fantastic production. You all do a phenomenal job. We're so grateful you're part of the city of Kenner, and we're so grateful for your help with the police department. You don't know, you might have saved a life because of an extra, bulletproof vest that we were able to get. So that's absolutely wonderful, and I want to congratulate you.
Thank you very much. We appreciate that. Thank you. Are we dismissed?
I can't do
Yes, please, before you sit down, I'd like to take a picture of the chief and. You think it's going to take? No. Yeah, we do it. It's not going to take that long. Yeah. We got a new.
I gotta see if we can pick up her laptop. See, her laptop's not showing.
Yes, she controls it too.
I don't have a video input from her. Is her laptop there? Yeah, but I don't know if she has it. Remember, you know how it doesn't pick up videos sometimes? all this up tests on your computer.
Wait, you putting it, oh, you putting it on this one? Okay.
See if it shows.
We in the beginning because we took it out of order.
How did you get it? It worked.
We are now ready to continue the meeting in about 20 seconds.
I'm not ready yet. This evening, I'm going to read the rule. I forgot to read the rule tonight. So in accordance with Council Resolution Number B14550, please be advised that all cellular telephones, pagers, beepers, and other devices of this nature must be deactivated or silenced throughout the council meeting. Under the consent agenda this evening, we have item 1, approval of minutes, the regular council meeting of September 4, 2014. Item 2 is approval of alcoholic beverage permit applications. Item 2A is a resolution granting an alcoholic beverage permit to Friends of Rivertown on October 3, 2014, at 415 Williams Boulevard, being property owned by the City of Kenner in Kenner, Louisiana. Item 3 is approval of bingo and public gathering applications. Item 3A is application number 1836/14, Tulane Transplant Institute to hold a public gathering for the purpose of a Gift of Life picnic on October 4, 2014, from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. at Veterans Park in Kenner, Louisiana. Item 3B is application number 1839/14, Divine Mercy to hold a public gathering for the purpose of a Catholic parish festival on October 10, 2014, from 6 p.m. to 11 p.m. on October 11, 2014, from 11 a.m. to 11 p.m., and on October 12, 2014, from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. at 4337 Salentini Parkway in Kenner, Louisiana. Item 4 is correspondence, reports from the mayor, CAO, or department heads. Item 4A is at the request of the administration, an update from the Kenner Code Advisory Committee. This afternoon, we have Ms. Debbie Satoon with the Code Advisory Committee that will be making a presentation to you, council members, this evening.
Ms. Satoon, please come up. Thank you. Name and address, please.
Hi, I'm Debbie Satoon. I live at 5321 Toby Lane in Kenner.
Thank you.
Okay. This is our annual update to the council. Okay. Thank you. This is our annual update. This is the third year that we've had the Kenner Citizens Advisory Committee, and we've gotten a lot of new members in thanks to the elections, and so we've had to kind of acclimate them to where we've been and where we're going. So without further ado, I'll move on to our mission, and our mission is stated up there. I want to call your attention to share perspectives, study issues, develop recommendations. We want to promote public awareness of the code, and also we want to have a fair and unbiased compliance program. And that's very important to all of us for whichever neighborhood you live in Kenner. Next. Okay, here are our Code Advisory Committee members. Myself, I'm the chair appointed by the mayor. Debbie Villio is the assistant chair. Mark Johnson is the representative from District 1. James Virgil is our police chief's appointee. Those four have been on the committee for all three years. Nikki Nicolosi, he was a former code director. He was on our first year and also the third. Bud Logan from District 4. We have Jerry Matisse from District 2 here with me. And stand up, Jerry. And also Charlie Friel, who is from District 3. So I'd like to thank them for attending. You can be my backup. And we also have Kevin Collins and Margaret Thompson. A new addition is Arthur Dupree, who also handles the code court. Okay. Okay, so I want to look back a little bit, just to review with you, the new council members, where we've been. Every year I've tried to approach this in kind of a business-like fashion, and we've asked for priorities from the council members. In 2012, we decided our top 3 priorities were blighted homes, grass, weeds, and fill. And we also looked at illegal parking and general public awareness. Blighted homes, you can tell that's we feel like we did something that year. We put in some legislation, that was our first co-director, Tamithia Shaw, to hold mortgage companies responsible for the upkeep of the properties. There seemed to be this gray area that some of the abandoned houses fell in. We created a priority list and reduced the wait time to get these cases to court. And Keith Connolly, when he was the code enforcement director, actually was able to streamline that process. And Amy Vallow, our current director, is working on actually further defining the list and also expanding the definitions. Grass, weeds, and fill, I'll let you read it. The only item we have left to do is implement a dumpster regulation. That's it. So all of these slides are color-coded. Green is successful, go. Orange is working, and red is not started. So forgive my affinity for color, okay? Illegal parking. This became quite an issue at some point. We had a lot of places where people were parking on the sidewalk. It was a safety issue. We also had a lot of large business and commercial vehicles in the residences. And what we did was we passed some ordinances that prohibited large commercial vehicles, and we asked for better police action for vehicles blocking the sidewalks. Particularly in the summer, this is a safety issue for children and the elderly. We still have carried forward a need to limit vehicles parked on the front yard areas, which kind of is a pretty bad aesthetics. And we're going to work more on that this year through the Planning Committee. We have published a frequently asked questions list on the website. I have a link to it at the end of this presentation. And we also implemented the right-of-way rental program. It's a program Jefferson Parish put into place on Veterans Boulevard, and it's been used to fund all those landscaping and art and sculpture improvements to veterans. We've also extended that to Kenner, and that, I think, is going to be a source of revenue for maintenance for our parkway. I did participate in the Economic Development Committee meetings and brought that code feedback to my committee. Okay, so that's what we did in 2012. That was with Tamithia, and she continued into this year, 2013. We had an emphasis on excess occupants in one residence. Now, excess occupants, the family, quote unquote, is defined as 4 unrelated people. There's a court case going on about this in Baton Rouge that we're monitoring, but the main thing that we did was we added some part-time inspectors to work in the evenings to make sure that the violators of the single-family residence areas were actually able to be caught when they came home from work. And a lot of people we found didn't know about this rule. They were not under the impression there was any limit. This relates to limiting the front yard parking to at these residences as well. So what we did this year was try to come up with a recommendation to the planning department that we limit parking, front yard parking, to paved surfaces only. And in order to protect against someone paving their entire front yard with concrete, we also are looking to the planning department to recommend to the council a minimum percentage of the front property that can be paved, okay? And it's somewhere around 30, 35, 40%. And you want to do that for drainage and safety. Okay. Illegal parking, we did implement that right-of-way rental. The Mike Powers has been working that for us. He has several firms signed up, and we're soon going to ask that he issue a deadline to make it fair to all the businesses who have started to pay rent. The police department, we talked about increasing the ticketing of cars blocking sidewalks. The code department came up with a very good idea for removing shopping carts from the streets. We got a trailer, and they were able to start collecting them and kind of hold them hostage until they were redeemed by their owners. That took them off the streets for us. And again, we had the vote on the ban for large commercial vehicles at residences. Next. Okay, let's see. We need to go forward, I think. There we go. Okay. We were getting some complaints from the public. We have public comments at our meetings, which are the second Monday of the month. And we were getting some complaints that people were repeatedly filing some complaints, and they weren't getting action. So with the help of Amy and Keith Connolly, we were able to adopt a one warning rule. In other words, the inspector is limited to give one warning and one warning only at his discretion before writing a violation. We had a lot of times where I know myself, I called a dozen times on a particular problem, and they would be warned, but no violation would get written. And that wasn't prompting good enforcement for our code inspectors. Code inspectors really embraced the one warning rule, and I think it was very successful. Since Amy's come on, she has accelerated, along with Natalie, the use of the Munis code enforcement module. So we'll soon have statistics available on enforcement efficiency and repeat violators. We endorsed the Kenner electronic sign ordinance. This was based on a version that had been approved previously by the East Jefferson Civic League for unincorporated Jefferson. Blighting housing, we continued to watch blighted housing in 2013, and we're just going to continue to monitor it going forward. Yeah. And the planning studies, we were starting to overlap a bit with the planning department's efforts on two studies or two initiatives that were underway. One is the Kenner Unified Resiliency Code. That should go before the council in December 2014, and the Comprehensive Zoning Ordinance, which should be adopted prior to the end of first quarter 15. These dates are tentative because, as you know, all of this material has to go before the public. There'll be some announced meetings, and the public will be able to give input. So depending on how much input Jay Abear and his staff get, that may modify these dates. They've done a good job working with UNO to try and get this resolved. They've had a lot of interruptions over the history of this study, and I commend them for their perseverance. And I think, a lot of the things that we were working and we voted on, we didn't want to put into ordinance only to have it covered or worked simultaneously by the planning department. So some things we have pulled back on and just given Jay our input for these two studies. Okay. Our path forward is to synchronize with Jay on the items you see up there, the commercial passenger vehicles. We're recommending that they be limited to 2 per resident. We're talking about limousines, taxis. Problem is, Orleans Parish had a similar ordinance, and we saw an influx of taxi cabs into Kenner, Jefferson Parish, Kenner. Limit of the commercial vans. Instead of assigning what a commercial vehicle is by weight, we're now going to make it easier for the code enforcement inspectors to actually, measure a height, which is a very tangible black and white criteria. And again, we're going to work with planning on the parking on unpaved services. There was a motion or an ordinance that's being worked by Chateau Estate Civic Association. Mike Zimble is the president. and he's going to try to put forth some new rules for boat parking. And that'll come out again in those 2 planning studies. And we're trying to, of course, restrict by that electronic variable messaging ordinance that we adopted, the safety issue of electronic signage distracting drivers. We want it to be upfront with that, and it's going to be in the new planning studies. Okay. So current status, after this committee's worked 3 years, and it's been a tough 3 years. We've had 3 code enforcement directors. We've had an election. The code enforcement directors themselves have had challenges with software, personnel, and moving to a new office. But I think we've had a lot of progress. The one thing we continue to want to correct as soon as possible is that blighted housing issue. Amy is revising the definitions. She's also re-verifying the houses that want to meet the original list. And I wanted to thank the council for putting more money in this budget at the recent budget meeting. And the rest of the items on there are pretty evident. We are going to try to help Amy do a comparison of the fines and the permitting fee structure. It seems that we think we're a little out of line. We're not in line with the other municipalities. They are actually charging more. And I think, correct me, Amy, if I'm wrong, I think the code department brings in a large portion. I think it's $3 to $4 million a year. Okay. $3 to $6 million for occupational licensing, building permits, and violations. And of course, we'd love to get more evening and weekend staff. We do have some, but we can always use more. Okay. So generally, I think we've done a fairly good job. I'm looking forward to the improved effectiveness of the department once we get the pilot of the handheld computers finished. I think we've made great steps with Natalie and Amy working that issue. And I think departmentally, we improved the department itself, not only in the physical office space that they occupied, but also when we brought in the inspector hiring criteria, the cross-training of the staff, and enhanced public access to the inspectors. Okay. And if anybody that watches this on TV needs more information, there is a link on the Kenner City site to the Code Enforcement Department. And we also have the frequently asked questions, which are soon to be interpreted into Spanish. So with that, I'd like to thank the administration, the council, Amy, Jay Hebert, and all of those who help us month to month in our work.
Thank you, Mrs. Satoon. There are a couple of council members that have a couple of questions, and first is Councilman Conley. You have the floor.
I just wanted to thank you for all the work that you've done. I know this has been a passion of yours for the past 3 or 4 years. When I was the interim code director before Ms. Vallow, I got to go in front of this advisory board, and I have to say that they take it very seriously. It's a format in which anybody in the public that has a complaint can come in front of this board and air their problems. And on the other end, if people feel that something's not fair in the code, they can come and be heard. But I want to thank you and Ms. Villio and the other members for all the hard work they do and the sacrifice. And I know that you are on constant patrol for code violations. So I know that you're chasing your passion, and we thank you for that.
Thank you.
Councilman Reno, you have the floor, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. I also want to thank, you got the mic? Okay. I also want to thank you, Ms. Satoon, as well as the rest of your committee, especially my representative, Charlie Friel, and you also are in my district, so we have 2 District 3 people on the committee. We appreciate your service to our community.
Thank you.
So much.
Okay.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Klein, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Toon, what is the committee doing? In my district, the boat issue is a hot issue. And what is the committee doing with respect to drafting some sort of proposed ordinance or working toward defining the boat issue?
Okay. We had a presentation during our public comment period at one meeting by Mike Zimble, who's the Chateau Estates president, and he came forward, Zimbic, sorry, my apologies. He came forward with a proposed ordinance, and I think Amy took it to Jay, and I think, Amy, you can comment because I can't remember exactly how this went.
It will be encompassed within Mr. Hebert's revision of the comprehensive zoning ordinances because of, with residential areas. So that is being addressed and being discussed quite frequently.
Okay, and Ms. Satoon, Mr. Zimbick is right behind you.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. So I think from a committee standpoint, we feel like the boats in the front yards are probably a visual detraction, but we sympathize with the boat owners who have had boats on their property for a long time. And maybe, side yards behind a fence, we would be open to the planning department recommendations, and they're working the details of that.
Okay, and that's a priority of the committee to work on the boat issue?
Yes, it is. Mhm.
Thank you, Ms. Satoon.
You're welcome.
Mr.
How-
Hebert, would you like to say something too? I guess Mr. President would have to recognize Mr. Hebert?
Yes.
Jay?
I'll just,
After Ms. Satoon's finished. You finished, Ms. Satoon?
Oh, I'm finished yet.
to add to what Ms. Satoon just said, the Planning Department does have a draft of that proposed regulation, and we've already discussed it with Ms. Vallow as well as the UNO Planning Division staff. And it will be addressed in the new Unified Resilience Code. And so we're looking at alternatives with regards to boat parking on residential property.
Mr. Toon, also, thank you, Mr. Hebert. Mr. Councilman Segura, please. You have the floor.
Thank you, Council President. Yes, I wanted to commend the committee because I know since coming on board in this council seat, I do get a lot of questions, a lot of input on why this or why this is happening relative to these issues that you've touched on, with the cars parking up in the yard and the boats in the driveways and things like that. So I keep referring to your committee to say we're looking for the recommendations to move forward. So I do look forward to those recommendations for us to have the guidance to make those decisions on how to address these issues. So please continue your hard work and bring us some good recommendations. And I do want to, again, commend my appointee, Mr. Jerry Matisse. I know he's very diligent in what he's doing, so.
He is.
I
Very enthusiastic.
So, thank you all.
Okay.
Thank you, Jerry.
Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Seduna, I have a few closing words before you sit. Again, thank you for your hard work. I realize all the men and women on this committee is, you don't get paid for it. It's because you care about the city of Kenner. You have to work with the code department. You have to work with Mr. Hebert's department. So it's a collective with everyone within our city. And I always say the recreation department, people, children, is always a priority. And the code department, people, property, falls a close second. And this is a tough group to have to be able to deal with sometimes because people are really passionate about who their children are and what they own. So
Right.
it is a tough job. I commend everything that y'all do. I realize you are in the group are an advisory committee, make recommendations at the end of the day. But it's an important part of it to be able to help this administration, help the code department, help the planning department with a lot of stuff that will alleviate some of the long, hard work they have to do. I know you mentioned a couple of things, and I don't want to go into a whole lot of detail because there's still some vetting to be done. Number one, you said the family aspects of, is it 4+ family members, or is it?
It's a maximum of 4 unrelated people.
So the family members plus.
Family members are related, yeah. So if you 4, I'm assuming
Okay.
you're not related, lived in a house, you never know, Adam and Eve. So if you four lived in a house,
Okay.
you couldn't invite a fifth person unrelated. And it's got good merit to it.
Okay.
And thank you for your appointee, Mark Johnson. He is very
he's-
good, and he has a lot of passion around the issues, and
He is passionate. His family's been there a long time.
Yes.
So really is concerned about his property, obviously, and everyone within our community in the city of Kenner. That itself, I'm not as smart as everybody else about that, but that is a tough job to enforce. And
it is.
how, I mean, without, like I said, I won't go into detail, but that may be some of the questions as we move forward.
It's
How do you
very hard
exactly-
legally to enforce, but
Yes.
it creates a lot of frustration. One of our committee members, Danny Laird, recently moved away, and he and his wife had property, and they were getting frustrated at the amount of traffic and cars brought on by excess occupants. And it is a safety issue, too, from a fire standpoint. So.
But it's good to hear that there is a case going on in Baton Rouge that we are watching closely to see exactly how that unfolds, which will always help us to do a better job with our particular law. So
Right.
I am as waiting as patiently as you to see exactly
Yeah.
how that unfolds. And the second thing is, and this is something which is predominantly in District 1, I believe, the one about the not being able to park on your front lawn.
Glad you reminded me.
A lot of the homes in District
Yes.
1 have been there for 50-plus years, and they have
Exactly.
never had any type of cement parking. So that,
Correct.
too, is something I think we have to watch closely.
I'm glad you said that, because I forgot to say, we look broadly across the whole spectrum of Kenner. And Mark is good at reminding us that this particular issue is going to be, a concern to the elderly, a concern to the people in District 1. So what we did, we said we're going to make an exception. If you have a house that is not on a curbed street, and my mother lives in a Gonzalez home that's not on a curbed street, it has a ditch drainage, you will be given an exemption, okay? Now, that's not to say those people will be able to park 5 cars across, no. But if they traditionally parked on one driveway that's not particularly paved, it may have gravel, it may have some other surface, that's an exception. We do not want to start to implement forcing people to concrete driveways where there has never been one. And Mark has been very good about cautioning us to be careful not to think that, this particular neighborhood is exactly like that particular neighborhood. We have a wide range of socioeconomic residents. We have a wide range of lot sizes. We have a wide range of opinions in the city. So, yeah, it's hard to balance, and I commend Mark because he's reminded us sometimes of the things that we need to include in our recommendations in order not to be a burden on senior citizens or, as you say, people who have been longtime residences who've always had a neat house with, the driveway like you described.
Yes.
So,
and it's good to hear that, and this is the type of vetting that people like to hear first, that, there's always the perception that, we're the bad guys and we're coming down on people, but as long as we are aware of the number of things that we are trying to do and to ensure that we are working with the community, I think people can accept all of the work that you guys are doing along with the planning department. There will be opportunities for everyone to meet when this is vetted. So I think that's upfront, it's transparent, everybody sees it. Before I close, what particular day of the week do you guys meet, and what's the location?
We meet on the second Monday of the month from 5:30 to 7, and we are in these chambers. So we come here and we meet, and there's 2-3 minutes per person for public comment at the end. And there was something else I wanted to say, and it slipped my mind just like a senior moment.
We understand that.
You
especially
understand that?
Councilman Conley, he has a lot of those up here sometimes. But,
Okay.
but thanks again for all of your hard
Thank
work.
you.
I'm sure we'll be talking again in the future. We look forward to it. And
We
thank
welcome,
you. Thank
we
you for-
welcome the public comment. I would urge people to go to these meetings. that the two studies will be presented at and to give their input. It's very important. Thank you.
And before you leave, I see where Councilman Impostata also came on. Councilman Impostata, you have the floor, please.
Yeah, and you actually kind of touched on it a second ago. Could you make sure to let us know when those proposed ordinances or when these are going to be presented to your committee?
Okay, that's going to be Mr. Abear, and I think he will have a series of public meetings.
Yeah, there will be public notice. You'll be made aware of it.
All right.
Okay?
That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Thank you, Mr. Toon.
There are no items on the consent agenda, so therefore we have a motion
Madam-
by council member.
Is it allowed for the public to speak at this particular point? Mr. Morella is standing in. Is this,
That is the chairman's decision, if you'd like to allow someone to speak at this time.
yeah, Mr. Powell, are we within the rules of the Roberts Rule to allow?
His comments are direct, sorry. If his comments are directed toward the subject matter, it is the chairman's prerogative to allow him to speak. But there is an agenda item near the end of the agenda for persons wishing to address the council on other matters.
Mr. Morella, obviously, if it's related to this, we want to hear this, and I'll give you an opportunity to speak at this time.
It's on this matter.
Name and
Al
address.
Morella, 4260 East Loyola Drive, 5th District, 42 years. I want to thank Mr. Toon for coming down here, taking her time, her presentation, and I appreciate anyone who volunteers their time to put something back into the community, which I had done at one time myself. During the presentation, I got a question for Mr. Toon. The question is, I didn't see anywhere in the presentation how your committee is dealing with commercial blight in the city of Kenner. And Lord knows, we have a lot of commercial blight in this city.
Mr.
I
Morella,
didn't see anything in the presentation. That's why I'm asking
yeah,
the
the
question.
presentation was just briefly to bring everyone up to speed to now. There will be other meetings. I don't want to put Mr. Toon on the spot right now. I'm not sure if she came prepared to address in detail. So if you can, Mr. Toon, she can talk to you after for the meeting purposes. If you don't mind to talk to her after, or you can go talk to her right now about that so we can continue with the meeting.
If she's going to be here at the conclusion of the meeting, man, I could talk again on item number 20.
Thank you.
Councilman Carroll.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. There are no other items on the consent agenda, so this evening we'll have a motion by Councilmember Conley, second by Councilmember Carroll on the consent agenda. Council members, please vote. Mr. Chairman, motion passes 6-0 for the consent agenda. Under the public appearance agenda this evening, we have item 9, public hearings for final passage. We have none. Item 10 is opening of bids. We have none. Item 11 is reclassification for zoning for final passage. We have none. Item 12 is other ordinances for final passage. Item 12A is summary ordinance number 11,758. An ordinance repealing and rescinding ordinance number 9325 and providing for related matters. Mr. Chairman, we've received a request this evening for a one-meeting deferral on this item. If I could, I have a motion by Councilmember Conley, second by Councilmember Reyno for the one-meeting deferral this evening. Council members, please vote. Mr. Chairman, motion passes 6-0. Item 12B is summary ordinance number 11,767, an ordinance designating and naming the Office of Inspection and Code Enforcement located at Building B, Suite 100, 1801 Williams Boulevard, Kenner, Louisiana, 70062, the Matthew Junior Chiro Office of Inspections and Code Enforcement. Mr. Chairman, we've also received a request this evening for a one-meeting deferral on this item.
Yes, motion by Councilman Segura, second by Councilman Carroll.
Thank you. All council members, please vote. Mr. Chairman, motion passes 6-0. Item 13 is resolutions and motions by council members. Item 13A, at the request of Councilmember Conley, a motion to dissolve the committee to review sale of Kenner City assets and proceeds derived, which was created at the September 4, 2014 council meeting.
Motion by Councilman Conley, second by Councilwoman DeFrances.
Right now.
Councilman Segura.
Council members, please vote. Mr. Chairman, motion passes 6-0. Item 14 is items removed from the consent agenda. We had none. Item 15 is acceptance of contracts and similar matters approved by the mayor. Item 15A is summary ordinance number 11,768, an ordinance approving an amendment to the agreement with Direct Source Home and Renovation LLC regarding the furnishing and installation of vinyl siding and related exterior improvements on an as-needed basis, which increases the maximum agreement amount to $300,000 annually.
Motion by Councilman Impestado, second by Councilman Klein.
Council members, please vote. Mr. Chairman, motion passes 6-0. Item 15B is summary ordinance number 11,769, an ordinance accepting the lowest responsive bid received from Louisiana Lift and Equipment Incorporated in the amount of $17,349 for the purchase of one JLG 2630 ES scissor lift or equal in accordance with letter bid number 14-1519 for the Department of Parks and Recreation.
Motion by Councilman Conley, second by Councilman Segura.
Council members, please vote. Mr. Chairman, motion passes 6-0. Item 15C is summary ordinance number 11,770, an ordinance approving a host agreement with Amateur Athletic Union of the United States Incorporated, AAU, regarding the 2016 AAU Girls Basketball 5th Grade Division I, II, and III National Championship Tournament.
Motion by Councilman Impestado, second by Councilman Klein.
Mr. Quigley would like to speak, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Quigley, please.
Yeah, we'd like to comment on this. You may have remembered a few years ago when we had a real controversy whether we would remain with the Kenner Convention and Visitors Bureau and go with the Jefferson Convention and Visitors Bureau. And at that time, there was some thought that perhaps we would never, ever get these tournaments anymore because we didn't have the KCVB doing this for us. So I think we're proud to say tonight that we're going to bring this very prestigious tournament back to Kenner. It was with the help of course, Ken Maricoli, our Parks and Recreation Director, the JCVB. It was a combined effort in getting this to come back, and many of y'all can remember back when we used to have these tournaments, they filled the city. Our hotels were full, our restaurants were full, and there was some skepticism that because of the fact that we wouldn't have the KCVB anymore, that we'd never get this tournament again. And here it is again, back in Kenner. So we think it'll be a real credit to the city again. I know Ken's got some real good ideas for the opening ceremony, like a Mardi Gras parade in the Pontchartrain Center. So it'll be next summer. It's 2016, and actually we're even going to bid on the 3 succeeding years. So this is real good news for us. I'm glad to be able to announce it to you. I think in this ordinance that there's some money commitments, but we feel like we'll do such a great job that we'll probably make money. So this is just something that we have to make sure that they know that we're committed to having this tournament, and you can rest assured that we're going to do a better job than city's ever done with these AAU tournaments.
Thank you, Mr. Quigley. And, you know, I myself had some concerns about it, not the fact that I don't believe that the organization could not have brought it back, but it is the time, how fast could we have done it? And I believe it has been expedited because a father who had a daughter that played AAU basketball, I understand the competition for the different cities wanting to host this because the economic impact it has for the city. So for us to be able to get back into the game, so to say, I think shows the commitment. Mr. Maricoli, could you come up and just give us a little bit more details about the number of teams we're looking at to have and the length of stay they normally stay here, stuff like that?
Basically, this tournament, this age group is typically about 60 to 75 teams. Each year, obviously, it varies depending on who wants to go. And they're here at least a week. They have 3 or 4 days of pool play. They have an opening ceremony, 3 or 4 days of pool play, athlete parties, different things that we're putting in place so that they'll actually stay at the absolute minimum about 5 days in the city of Kenner. That's hotel rooms, that's the restaurants, the gas, from the people needing to fill up their cars. So we feel that this will be a really large economic impact for the city.
Yes, as someone that loves basketball, I look forward to going out and see the young players, participate. It's something good to see. Hold on. Councilman Raynard, you have the floor, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ken, thanks for your work on it. Thanks to the administration. I also want to mention KTV. I believe they did a video for this, which y'all had presented
Yes.
at that time, which kind of helped out too. So I wanted to give them a little kudos as well. Thank you so much.
Councilman Conley, you have the floor.
Yeah, I'd just like to suggest that we coordinate with our community development department and maybe make little bags with coupons for local businesses and put these visitors that are in our hotels in touch with our local businesses so that they don't have to leave the city to eat at fine restaurants, maybe see a play, go to Rivertown, see the museums, and if we could coordinate our efforts. But this is a big kudos to the city. Anytime you can bring people and haven't traveled with travel teams for 10, 15 years, I know the money that I've spent, and I could imagine, that this is going to be a big benefit to the city.
Councilman Impostado, you have the floor, sir.
Mr. Maricoli, I was looking at this, brings to light a related issue that, would you agree with me that maybe this should send a signal to us that in order to get these kinds of events and positive events to this city, that maybe we should look at opportunities within our recreation department for not just AAU basketball, but maybe every sport that's available to attract these kinds of events on a more regular basis? Would that be something you'd be in favor of?
Absolutely, and I could tell you, I meet with the JCVB probably about once a quarter when they come in and bring us different events that they go to these, where they go out of town and go to these conferences, and they'll bring back a lot that we do apply for. It just depends on what they're looking for and what type of event. With the Pontchartrain Center in conjunction with that and a lot of the events. So absolutely, I think it's definitely something that we want to continue to do, and not just in basketball, but in every sport.
But what I mean is, would you agree? It would seem to me like there's things we could do within our own recreation department, the way it's administered, the way it's designed, the way we do things, that could help facilitate more and more of these types of events.
Yeah, absolutely. We definitely could.
And I think that's something we ought to consider working together on. And as all of the council people, I think we ought to make a conscientious effort at looking at the things we can do with our recreation department as a whole to encourage this kind of development.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Councilman Impostado. As Councilman Impostado said, I mean, we should always look to do more, to be progressive, and I think everyone looks at the Kenner Recreation Department outside of the city of Kenner. I think there are some things, as Councilman Impostado said, not only from a competition standpoint, but from a facility standpoint, from all of those things. I think that when people come in, they come in and they remember, how the restrooms are, how the buildings look, how the grass is manicured. So all of these things, we have an opportunity to plan a little bit for the gyms as we move forward, but it is an opportunity to ensure that in the future we will continue to get the opportunity to showcase our city to the United States and sometimes different parts of the world that come in.
Absolutely.
Thank you, sir.
All council members, please vote. Mr. Chairman, motion passes 6-0. Item 15D is summary ordinance number 11,771, an ordinance approving an agreement with NY Associates Incorporated for professional services concerning Kenner 2030 plan for West Esplanade/Duncan Canal improvements in an amount not to exceed $918,136 for the Department of Public Works.
Motion by Councilman Segura, second by Councilman Klein.
All council members, please vote. Mr. Chairman, motion passes 6-0. Item 15E is summary ordinance number 11,772, an ordinance approving an agreement with All South Consulting Engineers, LLC, for professional services concerning Kenner 2030 plan for the Erlangen Road median, Vintage Drive to the Lake, in an amount not to exceed $133,728 for the Department of Public Works.
Motion by Councilman Raynard, second by Councilman Conley.
All council members, please vote. Mr. Chairman, motion passes 6-0. Item 15F is summary ordinance number 11,773, an ordinance approving an agreement with GEC Incorporated for professional services concerning Kenner 2030 Plan, Power Boulevard, median improvements, West Esplanade to Vintage Drive, in an amount not to exceed $152,854 for the Department of Public Works.
Motion by Councilman Raynard, second by Councilman Klein.
All council members, please vote. Mr. Chairman, motion passes 6-0. Item 15G is summary ordinance number 11,774, an ordinance approving an agreement with ECM Consultants Incorporated for professional services concerning Kenner 2030 Plan for Williams Boulevard, Vintage Drive roadway, drainage and enhancement improvements, west side of Williams Boulevard, and an amount not to exceed $122,423 for the Department of Public Works.
Motion by Councilman Raynard, second by Councilman Segura.
All council members, please vote. Mr. Chairman, motion passes 6-0. Item 15H is summary ordinance number 11,775, an ordinance approving an agreement with Burt Klein Peter Incorporated for professional services concerning the Kenner 2030 Plan for Williams Boulevard / Airline Drive intersection improvements in an amount not to exceed $107,567 for the Department of Public Works.
Motion by Councilman Carroll, second by Councilman Segura.
All council members, please vote. Mr. Chairman, motion passes 6-0. Item 16 is ordinances and resolutions in summary for first reading. Item 16A is an ordinance accepting the responsive bid received from Gator Masonry LLC in the amount of $7,300 to furnish and install a CMU block wall for the backstop at Susan Park Playground in accordance with telephone bid number T-14-2216 for the Department of Parks and Recreation. Item 16B is an ordinance accepting the lowest responsive bid received from Signal 26 Incorporated, doing business as Code 3 Supply for the purchase of police uniforms and services on an as-needed basis in accordance with seal bid number 14-6229, and an amount not to exceed $40,000 annually for the Kenner Police Department. Item 16C is an ordinance authorizing the utilization of Jefferson Parish contract number 55-14-357 with Crane Materials International for the purchase of pile sheeting and end caps on an as-needed basis and an amount not to exceed $75,000 annually for the Department of Public Works. Item 16D is an ordinance accepting the lowest responsive bid received from Rivertown Collision Center LLC for an annual contract for automotive body and damage repairs on an as-needed basis and an amount not to exceed $75,000 annually for the Department of Fleet Management. Item 16E is an ordinance authorizing the purchase of one John Deere XUV 625i utility vehicle from John Deere Company in the amount of $9,408.05, utilizing the State of Louisiana contract number 409080 for the Department of Parks and Recreation. Item 17 is reports from the council and our special committees. This item was taken earlier in the meeting. Item 18 is new business. Item 18A, at the request of Councilmember Conley, a discussion regarding the choice by the Kenner City Council of an official journal for the city of Kenner.
Councilman Conley, you have the floor, sir.
Basically, we were contacted by a member of the townspeak unit wanted to address the council, so he was placed on the agenda. And if it'd come up, and state your name and address for the record, and you will be given the same amount of time as everybody else that comes. That'll be 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is David Francis. I'm the associate publisher of the Times-Picayune. I apologize for being a little late. I just was informed of this agenda item at about 10 minutes to 5, and I was downtown, so I'm a little hurried at this point. But I thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. I sent a letter to the council raising the concerns we had over the appointment of the New Orleans Advocate as the official journal for Kenner. There are two primary reasons for it, and both of those reasons are the fundamental reasons why you choose that official journal. One is the price, the other is the circulation. Mr. Shea, the COO of the Advocate, stood in front of this body and on both points misrepresented their price and their circulation. He said on the price basis, his bid was at 8 cents an inch. He informed you that actually 8 cents was per agate line. He then informed you that he meant to say 83 cents per inch. So he misinformed you on the price initially. Secondly, on the circulation, he claimed they have a paid circulation for over 30,000 in this metro area. He said that no less than 3 times in his discussion with the council. What we know, and what I provided in the letter, was that his circulation is about 20% up to 22% less than that. So what he has done is misrepresented not only the reach of their paper, but the actual cost of their paper in front of you. It's a matter of principle. The Times-Picayune has been the official journal prior to the Advocate being appointed, and we have a distribution with our paid and our TMC product, which has been in existence for well over 30 years, of over 17,000. That's more than 8 times what they distribute in Kenner alone with their paid average circulation of about 1,600. So what I ask that you consider is that you appointed a newspaper as your official journal based on misinformation provided to you by the president of that organization. And I think the citizens of Kenner deserve better than that. And I ask that you reconsider it, throw out their bid, throw out their appointment as the official journal, and appoint the Times-Picayune based on our history, our performance, and our integrity as an institution.
Thank you, sir. There is a councilman who would like to say a few words. Councilman Reno, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. McConnell, the amount or the cost that we were spending in the fiscal year 2012-2013 with the Times-Picayune was in the dollar amount. Do you have that dollar amount handy?
I don't have it in front of me.
Okay. I requested it, and the number that I came out with that the city spent with the Times-Picayune for that fiscal year was $8,575.79.
That's about right.
And we went back and calculated what the cost would have been based on 8 cents, which is what the Advocate gave us a price on. And that same year, we would have spent $722.17. We also looked at the 2013-2014, and the amount of money that was spent with the Times-Picayune was $6,546.55. We went back and calculated it based on the rate that we have, current rate that we have with the Advocate, and it's $551.29. We have council members up here that weren't part of that vote, but I was, and I want to make one point crystal clear. There was nothing in the RFP that said anything about having a minimum or a type of printed circulation. So when I voted on that issue, it was down to cost. So, circulation, printed circulation wasn't relevant at that point. It was a matter of cost. This saves the city thousands of dollars a year, and that's why I voted the way I did. Now, I also did a little other research, and Mr. Quigley, I have in front of me, and I just want you to confirm, the sworn affidavit by the Advocate in the bid process. Can you tell me what that last line is? Paid distribution within the city limits of Kenner on May 8th, 2014?
Yeah, in the RFP, it requires a sworn statement for 2 things. And one of them is that it's a sworn statement verifying that the newspaper is eligible to serve as the official journal of the City of Kenner in accordance to the provision requirements set forth in LARS 43:140. And then the other sworn statement showing the circulation with the city limits of Kenner, and it also must include a sample sheet of the paper to be used. So what you're looking at is the proposal that came in from the Advocate that has their sworn statement for the amount of circulation on that particular date. It's not an average, it's on that particular date.
And looking at the numbers, I mean, again, circulation doesn't come into play, but I just, I said, well, let me just go look and try to confirm what you sent in your letter compared to what this sworn affidavit was, and they're within line, They have a total of that day of 1,852, of which 1,442 are paid subscribers. So again, my decision that day was based on cost. It wasn't based on circulation. And, you know, nowadays, when you want to find something, I know personally I used to get the newspaper prior to Katrina. I don't get the newspaper anymore. When I want to read the newspaper, I go online, and I think a lot of people do that. And there was nothing in the RFP that I know about that, you know, gave an amount of printed circulation. So, you know, I appreciate you coming. I wanted to make my point clear so that my fellow council members could understand why I voted the way I voted.
May I
Okay?
say something?
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your comments. I would tell you that when you listen to the tape and you listen to the other council members who were there that night, there was a very specific discussion about the 30,000, how important it was to be distributed to over 30,000 subscribers. There were two council members who mentioned that specifically as one of the key reasons for it. Secondly, this is about notification to the citizens of Kenner, to let them know what's happening with their government, and it keeps them informed. Informed citizenry is important to a community. And when you distribute to only 1,400, whereas we have 17,000 with our TMC and paid subscriber, along with the fact that we have the largest website, when I say largest, meaning in terms of readership, we're the #1 newspaper website in the country, where the publication would also be on a website, as you say, you go online to look at your news. We would be fully informing not only all the citizens of your community would have that opportunity, but then across the metro area and even the state. So it's all about effective spending of your money. You could spend $500 or $600 and print this. The question is, does that get you the distribution and the notification that you have an obligation as a government to provide to your citizenry? And we think that it is much more valuable to make sure that, first of all, your citizens are informed, not people outside outside this area and the rest of the metro area, but you inform the highest percentage of your citizens first before you go outside with it.
But again, I still say that they can find that information. You can find it online. There's nothing about printed circulation. And I'm not sure, do y'all do the New Orleans? Do y'all handle New Orleans?
We handle Orleans, that's correct.
Uh-huh.
Yes, we do.
And you currently handle Orleans?
Yes, we do.
Okay. And what other cities do you handle?
We handle Orleans, we handle the Sheriff Gusman's business. Got to think through this now. There are about 15 different entities, so I don't want to get it incorrect. I think it is West Wego. There are about 3 others. I don't want to misstate which we handle, but we handle several other municipalities. I apologize, but I want to make sure I'm accurate in what I tell you. That's
But
part of the thing about my
do
institution.
you handle Jefferson Parish?
We do not handle Jefferson Parish this year.
Harahan?
No, we do not. No, we do not.
Gretna?
No, we do not.
Okay. Well, again, I'm sticking to my point that I voted based on cost. This is the best cost for the city of Kenner, and anybody that wants to find this information, you know, I always tell people you can Google. You know, you can find anything that you want in life right now. You know, information is very easy to get, and so it's available. So, thank you.
Yes, sir. Without leaving, and as Councilman Reynard said, a number of us were not up here. I was up here, and I was on the losing side of that vote. As he stated, you know, cost is very important for the city of Kenner, for our taxpayers. But I did consider, not doing the research that he has as it relates to circulation, if it was part or not, I did take in consideration about circulation, because for me, in my opinion, it means a lot to be able to send it out to more people, in my opinion. And that is why I voted the way that I voted. I also believe that, you know, we're not here to say anything from a legal standpoint that will put us in the wrong way, but I appreciate your letter. I think it is important for people, when they say stuff, to be accurate, to be correct, because it is credibility that we're talking about. So whether it was part of the RFP or not, credibility means a lot. And when a person says something, we have to hold them accountable for it. So I think, you know, this is something that we, as a council, the administration, we'll have to look at to determine that we're doing the best thing for our citizens, and to ensure that we were not unfair to anyone during this process.
That's all I ask, yes.
And I thank you for coming, sir. Thank you very much.
Question? Thank you.
Item 19 is unfinished business under motions to reconsider or remove from a tabled position. We have none. Item 20 is persons wishing to address the council on special subject matters.
I don't have the list, but
Twenty-one, 22, and 23.
okay, we have a couple of people. First, we have Mr. Gary Vanderview. Oh, Landrew. Okay. Your L look like a V to me, sir. So.
We don't speak French.
Please state your name and address, sir.
My name is Gary Landrew, and my address is 23008 Chef Mature Highway in New Orleans, Louisiana, 70129. And I want to thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members and citizens of Canton for the opportunity to address you. My compliments to you, to your professional and efficient way you run your government. If only our federal government could run this well. I'm a candidate for the 2nd Congressional District of the United States Congress. Louisianians deserve better. We deserve a voice in Congress that can stand up for the children, for the youth, for individuals, families of Louisiana. I'm fed up, and I hope you are too. It's time to replace the professional politicians with businessmen with the knowledge, understanding, and savvy.
Excuse me, Mr. Landrew, could you hold on a second until
Certainly.
I need to ask Mr. Powell, are we doing, because I want to make sure that we're not opening up the door for this to turn into some type of,
I believe our council rules prohibit us from having political speeches or candidates come and approach this board or this council. So if you just hold up, we'll check.
I wasn't aware of that.
We're going to make sure that we're as efficient as you said.
Okay?
We don't want to make a liar out of you.
My recollection is that political speeches are not allowed at council meetings. Political
is-
demonstrations of any kind are not allowed at council meetings.
yeah, so, Mr. Landrew, I kind of felt that way also.
Okay.
But I will give you at least 30 seconds just to close out, just to let you close out. And please try not to make it into a political closing as opposed to just speaking in general.
Okay.
If you could.
Let's bring jobs, commerce, and economic growth to the Louisiana 2nd Congressional District, which includes Assumption, Ascension, West and East Baton Rouge, St. Charles, St. John, St. James, Iberville, and Jefferson, and Orleans parishes. And gentlemen, thank you for your time. Didn't mean to cause a problem.
Thank you, Mr.
Good
Landrew.
evening, sir.
Have a nice day.
All righty.
You snuck him in, huh?
Okay, Mr. Al Morella.
Al Morella, 4260 East Loyola Drive, 5th District, 42 years. I got some questions and comment. Questions first. I want to direct this to you, Councilman Klein. I'd like to know what kind of meetings or what kind of discussions that we have with Anna's Linen to try to keep Anna's Linen in Kenner, which is now gone from the old Pavilion Shopping Center. Councilman Carroll, he can answer me after I'm done talking or while I'm up at the podium.
We'll let Councilman Klein at his discretion. Would you like to answer now? I can stop the clock, or would you want to wait till he get through, Mr. Councilman Klein? He'll answer you after you get through, Mr. Morella.
Okay. Next question I got is for Councilman Segura. Councilman Segura, Monday, which was September the 15th, at about 10 minutes to 7 in the evening, were you working uniform detail in Walmart? What's that?
You can wait till you finish, Ms. Morella.
Oh, you wait till
Everybody's
finish? Okay, that's no problem. In closing, I want to say this to you, direct this to you, Councilman Carroll. I've been attending these meetings for 40 years, and I'm well aware that when we comment on any item on this agenda, other than the item 20, when we discuss special subject matter, that we are limited to discussions on that item and that item only. So I'm well aware of that, but I do appreciate you wanting to get clarification on it and trying to do the right thing.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody?
Are you finished, Mr. Morella?
I'm done, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hold on, Mr. Morella. Councilman Klein, you have the floor.
Mr. Morello, I wasn't aware that Anna's Lane left the Pavilion Shopping Center, but I will check on it tomorrow and give you a call.
Thank you. I got some time. I can respond to that right now, Councilman Carroll?
Yes.
I just want to let him know I have a landline phone. I don't have a recorder, but I do have a caller ID on the phone. So if you can't get me, I'll know that you called. I'll see your number on that phone, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can.
All right, I'll get your number after the meeting's over.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
And before Councilman Segura answers this, I would prefer, Councilman Segura, if you want to, but I would prefer, I can appreciate the question, but I would really want this conversation to happen, maybe after the meeting, because I don't want it to seem as if, we're doing something that's inappropriate, asking questions. I think there should be a certain decor and professionalism always. It's a right to know this information, but to come up now and to ask it, I want to make sure that you are comfortable and ready to answer this before you do. If you're not, then I would suggest not to answer this. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Almarella.
Thank you.
I'll answer.
Yes, sir.
Oh, mic's on, I'm sorry. Yes, I did, and I was working, and I do work details, and if you'll check the Secretary of State's website and the Ethics Board website, you will see I have asked for opinions and received opinions in favor of me continuing to do so. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Mr. Morello, do you have anything to say to that? Or because you have 30 seconds, and I want to be fair with this.
I just want to thank him for answering the question. Thank you, Mike.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Next, we have Mr. J.C. Ross. Mr. Ross, name and address, sir.
First of all, good evening. My name is J.C. Ross. I live at 3000 Jasper Street. My concern, the gentleman asked on a consent agenda when they was reading on the code enforcement. And my understanding on anything that's in the agenda, when you're speaking on, if it's 1 through 19, that any public citizen have a right to ask at the time only on that consent agenda. I can't go from number 7 to number 9, but I can go, if she on number 9 or number 5, that we can speak on that. And some of the thing that I was going to ask the young lady that was speaking, Councilman Carroll, you taught basis on it. But when you look back through the history of Kenner, from Esplanade to the river, from William Boulevard to St. John, you got at least 85% of those homes do not have driveways. Now I keep hearing this study, UNO and stuff, the city of Kenner. Why don't the city of Kenner get with the community and let the community get out and do the study with them, and they can bring it to you all at the board, and they'll realize what community that have driveways, what community don't have driveways, and what community have ample parking. And you're making an exception with boats and cars, which was on the same agenda. Number one, if a person got a two-car driveway and have a boat, now my understanding from previous meeting before Mr. Mika got in, that you couldn't park a car on the side of the curb in front of your house. Now you all going back and saying you can't park on your grass. Is it true that your house that you own in the city of Kenner, that you're paying the tax, the resident of that area? And is it the city of Kenner responsibility whether if you pull in your yard on the grass, as long as you could see the address or the front of, see, some people have small yards, some people have a lower yard. On my street, I was lucky enough, I have a curve, but I was told I couldn't park on the side between, I have a big enough side that park between the curve and the street. But I was fortunate, I'm on the corner, my driveway big enough I could park 4 vehicles in it. But I'm not speaking of just me, I'm speaking for all the citizens of Kenner and the resident. I know in Chateau Estate, yes, they got plenty ample park, you know. But the thing I wanted to know, when y'all did the study, did y'all study the whole community or just part?
30 seconds, Mr. Ross.
I'm finished.
Okay, well, thank you very much. And like I said before, when Mr. Toon was addressing that, you know, by being a resident of District 1, it was good to hear that she wasn't addressing the entire law. She was only saying these have been some recommendations by the board, and that I was glad that part of their discussion, who is our appointee, Mr. Mark Johnson, had brought this to her attention prior to her coming to the meeting, and that we will be looking at this. Now, there will be an opportunity for everyone to meet at the vetting of this. Once the planning department get their recommendation, they understand that this is a concern. She kind of mentioned the fact that they will have some consideration for people who are seniors and other considerations. So I am sure there will be considerations for this. And if there is something that comes up that we don't know about, I look forward for the people coming to be able to address this. So then we can look at it, like I said before, to ensure that we're not trying to be the bad guy, but to ensure that we are being fair with everyone, regardless of District 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. So I appreciate your concern about this. It is your responsibility as the Lincoln Manor Civic Association president to speak on behalf of the community. But I assure you, when the dates are there for us to be able to attend these meetings, it will be published, it will be passed on to everyone, and I think that's the opportunity for us to be able to ask specific questions as it relates to sidewalks, people living in homes, et cetera, et cetera. But before you sit down, there was a couple of questions I think Mr. Hebert would like to address first before you sit down. Mr. Hebert, please.
Thank you, Council President. Let me just clarify. These aren't studies, these are projects. In 2012, we were awarded through the state's Office of Community Development funding for 2 things. Number 1, to create a comprehensive plan, which is required by state law. And number 2, to update or create a new comprehensive zoning ordinance. We held, with regards to the comprehensive plan, we held during that time at least 11 neighborhood meetings in which we coordinated with each council district representative. And I believe the first round, there were actually 2 that were held in council districts 1. Not to mention meetings, giving presentations before the Historic Commission, the Planning Commission, the BZA, the Kenner Professional Business Association, and a few others. We've gotten input and very good input from the community through those meetings and workshops. And we've gone back during that time, and we've actually established a final draft. And we're giving it one more look, one more review before we actually get it out to the public. With regards to the comprehensive zoning ordinance, that's a bit more detailed in nature because you're talking about regulating private land. And we are addressing and we are looking at the issue of parking of boats on private property, as well as the parking of vehicles in the required front yard areas. And I understand that those are hot topics with the Kenner Code Committee. We've gotten their recommendations, and we are discussing them and putting together our final draft as well.
Thank you, Mr. Hebert. And Mr. Ross, again, you know, I can appreciate your concern. Obviously, all of us will definitely have a concern about this, how things move forward. I think the good part is, with all of our comments, with all the different people from the river to the lake comments, it's an opportunity for everyone to learn something a little bit more, because we don't have all the answers, we don't have all of the rules, we don't know all of this, but when we come together and it's presented as a group for the city, I think it gives us a better understanding and a better appreciation and a better understanding for what happens within one district to the next. So I assure you, we will be letting you know about these meetings. If you have any specific other questions, you can call myself or Mr. Hebert, or anyone up here about specific concerns. But, thanks again for coming. If you don't have any more questions, then, we look forward to talking more about this in the future.
Yeah, that was just my concern. I understood the whole code enforcement output that she presented, but when it got to that question between a boat and an automobile, and I was wondering, with the priority parking that we have in the city of Kenner, like some of these houses are old, some have been here for years, and, you do a study, I was wondering that even though you all doing a marvelous job, that you can kind of present it with the neighborhood and get with someone in that neighborhood and kind of have more of an output on what's going on, because me, myself, I, don't appreciate going down the street with a car parked on the side and you have to wait till another car passes also. And those kids are very, very special to me. I've been dealing with it for 40 years, coaching volunteer for the city of Kenner. And I know how a young kid headed to a playground or playing with a ball will run out between a car, and you as a private citizen, just driving along, the kid come out in front of you, it'll hurt you more than anyone. But my concern was just for the parking, the driveway parking, the curbside parking between, even though you're not in the street or in your yard. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Ross. Mrs. Satoon, yes, ma'am. Please come back to the mic.
I just want to clarify the parking. We just don't want people parking right up against their front building line. And when Mark Johnson pointed it out to me, I took a ride through that neighborhood and did kind of an assessment, and I saw no houses in the District 1 portion that I drove, which was Williams, Rivertown, up the river and down the river a little bit. And I did not see the situation that we were trying to prevent, which is 5 cars parked across the front lawn. So it's, we're not talking about parking on the curb. We're talking about, if I had a picture, it would be very easy to explain. We're talking about physically driving over the sidewalk and parking right up to the wall, in the front yard. So, but if you have a concern, please come to our meetings. We're very open to new ideas. And I remembered the other point I wanted to make also with regard to the court cases. It's very interesting. Arthur Dupree is on our committee now, and he invited me to go to watch the code court on Fridays. And there are violations being written. We have a very fair and equitable approach to helping people pay their violations and to working with people on blighted housing and repairing housing. So I just wanted to commend him, and I also wanted to invite you all as council members. It was an education for me, so I think he would entertain a guest from time to time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Toon. And just as a point of clarification for the audience, that District 1, the section that Mr. Toon addressed was South Kenner. District 1 is gerrymandered. It also includes the Veteran Heights, Susan Park, Lincoln Manor, the Lee Sand Menden area, and also parts of District Loyola that goes all the way to Georgetown, South Part of University City. So District 1 is a vast area, so just to be sure when we start addressing this, that you take another ride, as it relates to the other section. Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Brown, I'm going to sound like Councilwoman Black. Mr. Brown, you didn't sign the list,
No, I didn't, but I wasn't sure I was going to speak.
Okay.
Although if you would prefer, I'll just sign in every time and
why do anything different, Mr. Brown? Please speak.
Richard Brown, 824 Sessions Lane, Kenner, Louisiana. Have a comment and a question. My comment is about one of the ordinances, or maybe the only ordinance that you deferred for one meeting. That was item number 12A, the ordinance which would repeal the existing ordinance that specifies when you sell streets within the city, that the money shall stay within the council district. And I want to urge the council to think long and hard before you change that. I know that's been the custom in the city, or has been the custom, was the custom for many, many years before that ordinance was adopted. And at first, when I thought about it, I thought, well, those are city streets. If they're selling a city street, why not have the money go into the general fund? But it was pointed out to me, the city didn't pay for those streets. The residents who live on those streets paid for it. Those streets were put in by the developers who developed those subdivisions. We're talking about residential streets, not commercial streets like Williams Boulevard or West Esplanade. Those residential streets were put in by the developers and paid for by the property owners who bought that property. And it seems to me only logical, if those streets are sold, the proceeds from the sale of those streets should stay in that council district for infrastructure. The other aspect of that I wanted to mention, I know there's an issue that by dedicating the money to the district, the police department is not getting its 24% that it would normally get from undedicated revenue, that our funding formula specifies the police department gets 24% of all undedicated revenue from the city. However, I don't know if you should necessarily consider that as revenue, because selling those streets is supposed to be a sale or a transfer for fair market value. If you're selling a street for $100,000, the city is giving up something worth $100,000. So when you take 24% of that to give it to the police department, you're basically taking, it was not revenue in the sense of sales tax revenue. Now, if that's what the council wants to do, that's fine, but I want you to give some thought to the fact that depending on how you look at it, that's not necessarily revenue. It's the sale of an asset, and the city is losing 24% of that asset. The question I had was directed to Mr. Conley. Mr. Conley, did that committee that y'all created at the last meeting?
Mr. Brown, we did defer that, so, you know, I'm letting you finish this up, but I really don't think we should be discussing. We deferred it. We will be coming back the next meeting, and I would appreciate it if you just finish your closing and then.
Mr. Carroll, if I'm not mistaken, during our 3 minutes at the end of the meeting, we can address any issues we want to. And that's the issue I choose to address during my 3 minutes. Now, I have a question for Mr. Conley. Did that committee ever meet?
He'll answer you at the end of your 3 minutes, Mr. Brown.
Yeah, I'm just asking. Can he answer?
Yeah, he'll answer at the end of your 3 minutes.
Okay, I'm finished.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Conley?
Just in response to both your issues, one, this council is working together, and we are considering, we know the gravity of the ordinance. That's why it's been deferred on 2 or 3 occasions, because we're going to get it right. The committee did not meet.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. I don't think, is there anyone else that would like to speak? Yes, sir. Name and address.
Yes, sir. For those of you who don't know me, my name's Michael Zimbick. I live at 34 Chateau Rothschild. I'm an attorney. I'm also president of the Chateau Estate Civic Organization, and this year marks my 3rd year as president of that organization. Councilman, we've, since 2004, have had some activity in pressing for some type of regulation of boat parking in front of residences. Right now, Kenner is one of only 2 municipalities in Jefferson Parish which allows or provides for absolutely no regulation. Councilman Impastato, I think you mentioned about parking boats in driveways. That's not solely the issue here. It's parking boats in front yards. It's not just driveways. You can park a boat in a front yard. As a matter of fact, we have a picture that I've used at various meetings, and some of you have seen it, on Roan Street, where there's a large boat that totally engulfs the house. Code enforcement comes out, and they shrug their shoulders, say how bad it is, but there's nothing they can do about it. And for those of you who haven't seen it, I think it will be in the Times-Picayune in an article in the next couple days. Now, why is it that unincorporated Jefferson, Harahan, Gretna, they all have adopted the same ordinance where the stationing of boats in front of houses is prohibited, but in Kenner, it's totally unregulated. Some people have brought up earlier today about private ownership of property, and I'm probably the biggest conservative or libertarian in this room. But the fact of the matter is, I can't open a store and sell goods out of my house and have traffic in and out, or I can't play loud music at 2 o'clock in the morning just because I go to sleep late and I don't care about my neighbors. And why is this? It's because when you have a densely populated area, you need to have respect for your neighbors. And that's the problem. What we have here is that everyone knows that boating is an expensive hobby. And that's what it is. With our proposed regulation, we have it as recreational vehicles or recreational watercraft. Everyone knows having a boat costs a lot of money. And so if you're allowed to put the boat in your front yard and the city of Kenner either won't or can't do anything about it, look what happens. You're telling your neighbors, you will have to involuntarily subsidize my hobby because I'm not going to go and pay for dry dock, I'm not going to pay for storage, I'm not going to pay docking fees. You're going to help pay for my hobby. And how do they pay for it? By diminishing your property values. I've researched this issue, and I've looked at other ordinances, not only in the state, but across the country. And in the north, it's fairly typical for a lot of councils there, when they enact an ordinance, they have a long preamble as to the reason for that ordinance. And half of those ordinances refer to stationing of boats in front of houses as blight. Now, you're all against blight, aren't you?
So you can wrap it up, sir. 10 more seconds.
All right, I've spoken to most of you. Councilman Carroll, I have a call into you, but I think I've spoken to everybody else. I have agreement in principle with 5 individuals to have some type of boat regulation. From 2004 to present, we've asked for some type of ordinance. Nothing's been done. We have now formulated our own ordinance, which patterns the unincorporated Jefferson ordinance, and we submit it to you. And, you know, look, I have no problem with being patient.
I've given you a little bit more, so.
All right, I do appreciate it. I'll wrap it up, and I'm sensitive. But, you know, the fact is, this has taken more study than the Keystone Pipeline. Now, come on, I mean, how much debate does it require? There's no
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. But I will also, just like I told Mr. Ross, this is, I appreciate your concern, and I can feel your passion for it. Mr. Toombs spoke that these are only recommendations. They're looking into the rest of the meetings through code enforcement will be addressed, will be publicized, and this will be the time, I believe, for the community to come in and for your organization also to vet and to express your concerns about it.
If I could have 30 more seconds, Council.
No, I would like to, but I don't think I should do that. So
Okay,
thanks a lot for coming, and look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you, sir. 2 more weeks, excuse me. Thank you, Council. So, yes, sir. So before we adjourn, there was something I like to publicly say that I would like to thank all of the elected officials that we had a meeting last night in District 1 as it relates to the project coming for the East Jefferson Levee District. I'd like to thank School Board Member Cedric Floyd, former Council Member Wilma Irving, former Council Member Sharon Aguilar, former Council Member Joe Stagney, Judge Mark Johnson, Councilwoman Maria DeFrances, Councilman Keith Raynard, Councilman Mike Segura, Councilman Dominic Impostata, Councilman Keith Conley, and Chief Justice June Berry Damensburg for coming out, because it is something that I believe is an opportunity for people who live in other parts of the city to come out and to listen to some of the people's concerns that they have that you may not ordinarily come to when we have specific meetings for the community. I think it was a great meeting. I would like to definitely, last but not least, thank all of the citizens from District 1 and even the citizens who were not from District 1 that came out to listen to what this country is all about, to be able to let the people voice their concerns. just like the two gentlemen, Mr. Ross and the gentleman from the Chateau Estates Country Club, come in. This is what government is about, and I think the city of Kenner has always given people their chance, their right to express their concerns. So for the meeting last night, a number of citizens spoke. They voiced their concerns. I do believe that the information that was shared will be beneficial for the project to move forward. It is something we all are looking for. I look forward to it. Thank everyone for coming out, and I really believe that it was a plus last night, and look forward to other projects so we can come out again and express concerns and challenges and an opportunity for all of us to hear people and to address it.
Councilman Carroll, I'd also like to mention that Representative Wilmot was there.
Yes, I forgot about that. Sorry about that, Representative Wilmot. Representative Wilmot, thank you, Mayor. If I don't see any more lights on, motion to adjourn. Thank you.